Survivor, and when the show ends, you really want to talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock Podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, and he likes to yell and curse, and if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. Spend the whole time being jerks, telling you you're wrong, and so we got this other jerk to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast.
Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. I am John. My co-host is Andy. We're not having any other co-hosts this year, and we're talking the finale of Survivor 44, and we're going to be doing it for a long time. But since it's already past my bedtime, I'm not going to engage in any witty banter. Let's just dive right in. Andy, how'd you enjoy this finale?
Mixed feelings. No, by and large, it was great, just like the season was. It was actually a weird sensation when we're watching and Probst is doing his, big promo, hype session to start the episode. And I'm like, yeah, actually, he's right on all counts. Like, he's kind of nailed it. But obviously, just a little, but disappointed in a bit the way that it ended. Like, it was all good, but, I kind of wish it was a little bit different.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, because that's the standard Probst intro, right? Like, oh, we're going to be set up for such exciting things. And, it's been such a great season. Like, he will say that about any shit sandwich of a season. This case, though, actually correct. Like, it was a great, fun ride. The cast was amazing. We had a good time. There were things happening. It was great. And I'm with you that I certainly had an outcome that I was rooting for. However, I still very much enjoyed the finale.
Yeah, it was, honestly, I found various points of the finale, actually moving, which has actually been true of various points of the season. I don't know, it's turning me into a big softie or anything. There were moments where, had I not been permanently damaged by the patriarchy or whatever, that, tears might have actually, fallen from my eyes. They didn't, because of, psychological damage, that sort of thing. But I felt on the precipice of that. And then, there's exciting stuff. No, it was really good. I just would have liked it a little bit more had one thing gone differently.
Well, let's talk about the one obvious thing here, because I know that you, just as I was, were watching that finale thinking, our girl Carolyn has to come through. We had seen it. We'd seen the possibility. We'd seen her path to victory, right? We could see it forming in front of us, and then it just got snatched right out of our hands there at the end, which, is disappointing just because, Carolyn feels like a completely different type of winner than we would have ever had before. Yam Yam has that to a degree, but there are at least some comps maybe for Yam Yam. Carolyn felt like she would have been a whole new category of winner. And I was ready for something new after 44 seasons of the show. Was that how you were feeling in the moment?
Yeah, we've gotten at this before, but the actual final results really, nails it down. She would have been just such a paradigm shift. And apparently that paradigm ain't ready for shifting yet.
Nope.
And again, it's not that big a deal because there was some paradigm shifting. And we'll talk about this more later, but the show, with the way that the show treated Caroline, even if she didn't win, I think marks something good. But yeah, I would have wanted her.
Hang on though. Let's dive into that right now, because I was going to bring this up later, but I think you're exactly right. I think Carolyn not winning does not mean a Carolyn can never win. I actually think that because of the way this season played out and how the show edited her, Carolyn herself did not win this season, but a Carolyn now could. I think it's laid the groundwork for that eventually to happen, should there be another Carolyn, which, good fucking luck.
Yeah, there may not be one. It's, lightning in a bottle, very likely, because I think she's one of the all-time greatest characters in the history of the show. But yeah, I think the dignity and respect that the show afforded her that has never afforded that type of character. That was the paradigm shift. And I think, yeah, you make a point that future players seeing that might be then ready to do the same when it's their vote. And again, I'm not criticizing the jury's decision. A few reasons. One, I rarely do that. I have a hard time thinking of times when I have done that. But even more than that, I think their decision made sense, especially as things played out. A lot of our belief, at least mine, I guess I shouldn't speak for you. I will possibly give you time to do that yourself. I didn't even do the crunching of numbers. When I was feeling really confident that Carolyn was going to win, a feeling that went away during the final tribal council, I'll add. I was never this person will vote for her, but I thought Franny would. But then I just figured that the way that the edit was treating her is only explained by her winning. Or not only, because, again, if you had a Carolyn, you would want to use a lot of Carolyn. But they didn't clown her throughout the season. They celebrated her. So I'm I bet she's going to win. How? I don't care. I'm waiting to find out myself. I never got down to that level. And then when it didn't happen, yeah, again, it was just a little disappointing. What's really crazy, and this is a question I'll pose to you, how many seasons, I don't mean you don't have to pick a number. Let's kind of ballpark it. How many seasons do you think in this show would you be disappointed with Yam Yam winning? Because that number is small, yet this is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, in nearly any other case, aside from a very small handful of winners, Yam Yam is one I would be absolutely celebrating. And it's really, and I'm to be clear, I am celebrating. Yam Yam winning is great. That guy's awesome. Amazing casting. I loved watching him this season.
Yeah, we're going to do a whole section celebrating him.
Well deserved, because he's great. But yeah, I mean, Carolyn, again, like I said, just was in a class of her own, and I wanted it. And just like you, I got to that final tribal council, and I just had been convinced, I was okay, well, we've seen Franny, and then Danny seems to have gained some respect for her. So I was the dominoes will all fall in these, in this finale, and it'll all come together. I don't know how she's going to get the votes, but she will. And then in that final tribal council, I'm oh no, actually, she's not. I started to actually count the votes, and I was going, oh no, this is not going to happen for her, actually. Yeah. So, but then again, at that point, fine, it's not going to happen for her, but it's going to happen for Yam Yam instead, which is really the next best thing.
Yeah, no, the number of seasons that I'd be disappointed with a Yam Yam win, there's no way they're double figures, It's if he beat Boston 5. Rob, it's there's really not that many, right? And again, another mathy type question, in how many seasons would Yam Yam be my absolute favorite character? 90% of.
Yes, for sure.
It's such a weird thing to be disappointed for. This guy was phenomenal. He was great. Again, when it happened, I was hey, good for him. But I still couldn't help but be disappointed. And that just speaks to, the way that I've responded to Carolyn. And we'll talk about her more later. But now let's talk about Yam Yam. Cause I just wanted to kind of it's weird to be disappointed by someone who is probably also now one of my favorite survivors ever. It's just there is a gap.
Yep.
But
I mean, it's kind of when you have LeBron and Dwayne Wade on your team. Obviously, LeBron is possibly the greatest ever. Dwayne Wade, also a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest ever. So you shouldn't be disappointed that Dwayne Wade gets the ring here. I just had to make some more Heat winning references. I got to keep up the streak.
Oh no, we just got to keep pounding the SEO that we're doing here with that niche that we're going after of Miami Heat fans and Survivor fans.
Oh yeah, there are dozens of us.
Yeah, no, Yam Yam was fantastic throughout the whole season. He was fantastic in this episode. Again, while the final tribal council was going, I'm Yam Yam's outclassing everybody here. And I think that's another part of it is we were always hoping that at some point Carolyn would be able to do for the jury what she had done for us, which is make it clear how aware she was of everything. And I don't think the jury was unaware, but I think you still saw it. And obviously Heidi was pushing this too, but like there was still this perception that it's like, well, Carson did the heavy lifting, but you guys were good too. Yam Yam did a better job of communicating, no, this is what I was doing. And, Carolyn was able to do that. So yeah, as it was happening, I'm like, I think Yam Yam's going to win. And I was like, almost like, so let's keep pounding the Heat references. It's almost Alonzo Mourning gif, where it's like, but yes.
Yes.
Because Yam Yam was fantastic. And in this episode, you got lots of like reminders of why he was so lovable throughout. And for me, like the big one was the scene with Yam Yam helping Carson with the fire. That was genuinely emotionally affecting for me.
See, I would say his fire making scene with Carolyn just sold it for me. Like that to me was one of the highlights of the whole season. But I mean, again, we're talking about a fire making challenge. You and I don't give a shit about making fire generally, but like the fact that these two were able to make the fire making challenge like entertaining television, the lead up to the fire making challenge entertaining, like what a fucking gift to this show, right?
It just goes to what we've always said, and it really is punched and underlined this season. It's all about the people. It's all about the cast, which is why in many ways we're a little different from the average Survivor fan. We gripe less about the people who make the show, although we still do. Like they are open for criticism, certainly make mistakes. And also, our vibe is to make fun of anybody where we think we can find some humor. But at the end of the day, it's about the cast themselves. And when they're this good, they can even make something like fire making be some of the best moments of a really good finale. And I don't mean the physical making of it, but like, yes, the practice where they're just like, dun, 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 fire and then taunting each other. That was beautiful. Like, getting back to what I said, I actually found Yam Yam's generosity towards Carson in that moment. And we could talk whether that was, strategic. Sure. I don't care. But it was also genuine and human. I found that kind of affecting. Like that, though, it shows, and it was a great reminder after probably a few weeks of Yam Yam being maybe a little frustrated here or there. Probably helps that he had some food in him this time. But that he is like a beautiful guy, right? Like just a really happy, generous person. So it's like I loved everything that Yam Yam was doing. I love the fire. So yeah, it's like even something as dumb as fire making can be great when the people are great. And the flip side is if the people ain't doing it, it doesn't matter what the show does.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, you could make some argument about, strategy with him helping Carson with the fire. Maybe he's trying to secure a jury vote or whatever. I just think, sure, if you want to say that, I think more likely that's just the person that Yam Yam is, right? I mean, you can even say like maybe he's convinced it doesn't matter. Like he could, if he has to go against Carson and fire, he's still going to win or whatever it is. I think it's just genuinely that Yam Yam liked Carson. And I think Carolyn liked Carson too. And Yam Yam liked Carolyn. Like the three of them actually all genuinely liked each other. And yes, they were playing a game against each other and that came out at times and they would get emotional. But I think they get along as human beings. And so it was cool to watch that. And, Yam Yam with potentially $1 million on the line because you're getting close to the end of the game here. Yam Yam's still like, that's okay. I like Carson. I'll show him what's up with the fire making. Like that was just cool to watch.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment of humanity. And that actually has been a highlight of the entire season, probably because the dominant story of the season was the Tika 3. And, they were there to play the game. They understood the game, but they were also never lost sight of, the people they are to the point where, yeah, like possibly in other seasons, Carson would be, a game bot. But in here, the people he was bouncing off of, he was mixing it up emotionally with them too. And yeah, I think it really worked. I think that might more than anything is probably Carolyn. But other than that was the vibe throughout the season. And a lot of like last season, there was debate in the fan community. I was, I think, involved in it on the side that like we need some villain or villainesque, like antagonistic figures But I think this season shows that you don't need that. You just need interesting people doing interesting things. And I think there is a role for antagonists or, villains, if you want to be good. Like, they can sometimes add things to seasons as long as they don't cross the line. But this season had nothing even remotely approaching that. It didn't matter. So it's just like, really, it's just 43, the cast sucked. And 44, they don't. And
right.
Highlighted again, especially by, its winner, Yam Yam, its star, Carolyn, and the way that they were just themselves. And I like that they each brought that up in the final tribal council. Yam Yam's brother telling him your reason why you're there is because of who you are. 100%. I think we even said on this podcast, or maybe I did, like, how long into his interview do you think it took them to know? And it sounds like the reality was like instantly Jeff knew this.
I mean, they addressed it in the finale, right?
Yeah.
They talked about it in the after show. So yeah, we were not wrong on that.
So we were wrong about the winner of the season, as we typically are. That part we nailed. So I think throughout the season we have talked about how much we like Yam Yam because, we're human beings with a soul. It's hard to imagine what the anti-Yam Yam portion would be of any kind of audience. But we actually haven't talked a lot about how well he was playing Survivor, in part because that was secondary the whole time to our enjoyment. But,
even now, still secondary.
But, he just won. So I think maybe we should talk about it.
I guess. Sure.
I think he played a damn good game.
He did. That's the thing, is just we hadn't talked about it all season long because we were just enjoying watching what he was doing on TV. And most of that did not relate to game strategy, right? Like, it was just him being entertaining, him saying gratification, him doing ridiculous things and giving these confessionals and burping in Carolyn's mouth and, that sort of shit. Whereas there was also these moments of, him and Carolyn and Carson, and they're like, oh, okay, so we're going to split these two tribes. We're going to pit them against each other. We're going to convince this tribe we're with them. Carolyn, you vote with them. We'll vote with them. They were genuinely doing very creative things to keep themselves in the swing position and not somehow getting targeted by the other groups until it was too late. And that's genuinely impressive to do because, how do they not notice what is happening? It worked.
And in contrast to Carolyn, because obviously, he got most of the votes and she got none of the votes, we did see more and more often that Yam Yam was the person talking with the other side, relating to them, getting them to do stuff. Carolyn obviously did some, but and Carson, I think, probably initiated it to start the merge because he was the one that was on another tribe for a short portion of time. But more often, we did see Yam Yam being the one making those connections and helping trick the other side. So I think, that was really key.
And I think this is actually part of what led to Yam Yam's victory over Carolyn, right? Because yes, Carolyn she did outperform, right? She's more strategic than people gave her credit for. She's more genuine than people expected. Those things are great. However, most of them probably had a much stronger working relationship with Yam Yam, right? Because he's the more personable one. He's the one that's going to deliver these messages about oh, yeah, we're going to vote with you. Or, he's the one you send because he's disarming with his sense of humor, and people are going to relate to him a lot better than Carolyn because Carolyn is, by her own wording, a weirdo. And so you don't genuinely send her out to be your messenger. So as I'm watching Final Tribal, I'm thinking of that and I'm like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense. Why would it not be Yam Yam?
Yeah.
When you take that into consideration.
And again, both of them did a great job articulating that, no, we wanted you to think that we were disorganized, but we were doing everything with intentionality. But to the point, I think Yam Yam was just doing it a bit more in the visible way to those people, right? He was the one they were communicating with. He was the one I think they probably felt more comfortable communicating with, because the problem with a Carolyn type has always been sometimes you might not want to work with them because they feel a little more unstable. Yam Yam never felt unstable with the people that he was working on, even when, he was lying to them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And in the final tribal itself, yeah, he did the great job explaining that. I think the part where he talked about like being able to read people and know when they're lying, that I think struck a chord. But even more importantly, and I think what won it over, if it was indeed an open competition by then, maybe they had already made up their minds. The dude's funny and people love him for it. How does it start? You know, why should you win? Because you love me. And then like they'll have to laugh. And after that, like it's not a hard, it's not, you know, this, maybe they never were going to be, but this was not a jury like, oh, let's get them, boys. You know, he disarmed them just like that, just the way he had been all season long. And then, yeah, I mean, once the jury's laughing along with you, that's a pretty strong indicator. That's when it felt like Gabler was winning last season, you know?
Right. And I think, you know, he had played, and he sort of, I think it was more Carolyn pointed this out, but he'd been targeted several times in the game and had escaped. And I think, you know, then went on to work with those people after getting votes against them, well, to a degree, and then he would eventually take them out. But still, like, he was just very disarming because of that. Like, he would just laugh it off or whatever, and then he would genuinely take these people out. And I think once you get to final tribal council, you say those things and everybody's like, oh, actually, yeah, you know, I did laugh at the time, but you know, you were a strategic player and you took me out and you took out the rest of my alliance. That deserves some credit. And they certainly gave it to him in droves.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think we don't rank winners in terms of like, you know, 1 through 44. It's just too hard. Frankly, what worked for Yam Yam this season might not work in any other season. Even like, I don't mean returning seasons because that's a whole different thing, but like it worked with this cast in this situation. So obviously we don't rank there, but like in general, my feeling is Yam Yam was a good winner. I don't just mean like, you know, a winner I really enjoyed. He'd be, you know, upper level for that. But like in terms, like he's, you know, not an all-timer. He didn't really control the game at the same level, which that's my own personal rubric, which is flawed, but it's clear if you've listened to me talk in the show that like I enjoy that aspect of it, but still really good, really strong. What about you? Any kind of overall thoughts like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to some of the other winners that I've truly enjoyed. And I think the one that jumps out to me is it's very similar to a Tyson thing where in terms of, obviously he is not the physical threat that Tyson is, right? But similarly.
Good, strong take.
Yeah, I know. I'm really going out on a limb there. But the fact that he is so funny and so charming, like, distracts you from the fact that he's a genuinely good player. Similarly, like, that's how Tyson can make it deep into the game, because Tyson should be a threat. Like, the guy is, you know, very physical. He's very charming. He's genuinely fairly strategic, with, you know, one major exception in a certain season. But yeah, then he just doesn't get targeted because people are like, oh yeah, but like, I like Tyson though. Tyson makes me laugh. And I think the same exact thing happened with Yam Yam. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. We did target him because he was a threat, but also I do like having him around. He makes me laugh. So that to me is what jumps out at me. Like, he's in that category with Tyson, I guess. I don't know where that ranks. Cause again, like you said, I don't necessarily do ranks, but certainly the upper half of winners, maybe upper third.
Yeah. And I think another thing, and this is maybe what keeps him out of my like elite. Again, I don't even know how many people are in that group, because once you really start to try and do it, you realize how like flawed it's apples and oranges, right?
Yes.
But the Tika 3 controlled the game from like whatever part we want to consider the merge on. Maybe not those false merges, although kind of as well, right? Now, I think maybe what keeps him from the very top is like, well, it was a 3, whereas some of those top winners, it was clearly like a 1. But yeah, no, they controlled this whole way. And one of the advantages that allowed them to do that is the whole time somebody's like, yeah, but they're not really together, you know? And he played a big part of that. And he's talked about it, I think, maybe I don't know if it was in the after show. I think it might have been in the like exits. It's like, yeah, no, him and Carolyn had planned at times, like, we're going to put on a show. Yeah, we're going to make them think that we're not together. But then suddenly, and this would be like in Tribal Council or whatever, Carolyn would play, you know, I think she gets a little too method in some of it. You'd be like, whoa, I was saying that was the plan. We're supposed to be tricking these people, and now she seems really angry. But, you know, it worked for them. So, yeah, no, I was a little disappointed. I was disappointed because I just wanted Carolyn to win so much. But I am not disappointed that Yam Yam is a winner of Survivor. He is phenomenal. I liked him from the moment that we first saw him, which is, again, solid, strong take. I think it's true for basically everybody who watches the show that, like, in the preview at the end of 43, they show this guy, and I can't wait to poop in the ocean. I'm sure everybody really liked him then, and we were all right. And it's great that, like, you know, that guy won Survivor. I just wish somehow it would be on different seasons, but I don't even know that would work. The season needed both of them because, yeah, I think they needed each other. Their dual energy is what really made it.
They played off each other so well, and it made the season so much better. I would just imagine them had they not started on the same tribe, right? Do they ever form that kind of bond where we're just like tuning in each week being like, oh, I can't wait for more Yam Yam and Carolyn content. Like, I don't know that happens. Like, again, it's not even just the casting. Like, this might have just been the casting plus the fluke of putting those two on the same tribe. I think another thing that I really enjoy about Yam Yam winning is that, you know, we've said in the past, a lot of times when, you know, a certain type wins, right? Or people try to pattern their games after previous winners. So, you know, when an exciting winner happens, we're like, oh, thank God, because we want people to imitate this person. When it's boring, under the radar, milquetoast winners, we're like, oh shit, please, God, no. In this case, if people want to go and try to imitate the Yam Yam path to victory, please, God, do it. Just go out there and be fucking ridiculous and let's see what happens. I'm here for it.
If that could somehow happen, yeah. And I think another thing that the Yam Yam victory does is remind everybody that, yeah, that likable person is a threat. And I'm glad that it went long enough that people forgot and then Yam Yam was able to get to a final. But I think there's always like this, sometimes amongst fans where they think it's overstated, where suddenly there's an episode where somebody who's been really liked, they talk about being a threat. And it's like, why are they a threat? They're not controlling any votes. They're not blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, in the end, juries vote for the person they want to win. And often that is who will make me feel good to vote for. And the reason why there's not a lot of history of that type winning is because most survivors know to not let that person sit in front of a jury. Every once in a while when it has, something's happened to take the shine off of them enough that like people forget how much they liked this person because maybe they dared, you know, play the game on some level and then they get punished, for supposed hypocrisy when the actual hypocrisy is amongst the jurors themselves. Yam Yam, that didn't happen with him. You know, he was able to make everybody love him, yet still play Survivor all the way through. So I think that's a big key. It'll be interesting though if there are future, just instantly lovable characters, or they're like, oh, that guy's got to go.
Well, you remember in the seasons shortly after Cochrane, they were like, oh man, we got to take out these skinny, scrawny nerds that, you know, that never would have been a fucking threat. And then there's just like this brief stretch where everybody's like, oh, got to take out that person. Do you though?
All right. I think that's enough about Yam Yam. Let's talk about the person we always want to talk about.
Oh, thank God. Let's do it. It's Carolyn time. Carolyn was fucking great. What a find. As you said, genuinely one of the all-timers for this show. Like, amazing casting. I mean, let's do some Carolyn favorite moments. Like, give me a Carolyn favorite moment for you.
Yeah, besides the practicing fire, you're bang on with that one. I love that they went full circle with the fourth wall breaking. The season starts with
Yep.
Carolyn being like, "Do I just talk? Is that just how it was?" And then she calls it out, and then the producer responds again, and that was again. I'm like, "That's the winner of the season," but no, it wasn't. But it was just a great reminder of what they had. And what's interesting is I was not a Carolyn fan off the bat, because she seems like the type of character that I don't like. She seems like the Debbie or Nora or something. And she actually spoke to this in her exit interviews. But the show didn't treat her that way. And even just that little, fourth wall breaking, just a reminder, like, Carolyn is just Carolyn. This is who she is. It's not some creation of the edit. Even when they remove the editing artifice, it's still her. And it's fantastic. How about yourself? You got something?
It was funny that you called out the circling back, the callback thing, right? Because not only did they call back to the breaking the fourth wall in the premiere, they called back to something that was not quite as long ago. Carolyn needing to smell Yam Yam after coming back from her reward. So good. Like, why? And they just both accepted it as like, oh yeah, this is a thing that we're going to do. Of course, it's perfectly normal. Yam Yam just walks right up like, oh yeah. Oh, you came from reward. I have to smell you. Okay. And now we can go about our lives. Like, so great. Like, why is this a thing?
Yeah, it's when they bring her back, I sincerely hope that this doesn't ruin a bunch of other characters I like, because if they don't get Carolyn, then they're all dead to me. They can't play along. Yes. I mean, obviously nobody can play along the same way Yam Yam does, because he is also just such a unique figure. But if they're like, oh, is this weirdo? I'm like, dead. I don't care who you are. You can be Boston Rob, which is, I think, the way he would react if he was there. Dead.
Obviously, my worry is that it would be Angelina that reacts that way, and then I'd be like, oh no. What do I do here? How do I choose?
John, I have some fantastic news for you.
So
you've made the correct decision, the moral decision, and all the reasons to be off Twitter. I am a dirtbag addict, so I am not. And so Angelina has said some things on Twitter about Carolyn.
Positive things?
The basic two, I'm just paraphrasing, is one, there is now no longer any doubt who the greatest no-vote finalist of all time is. Angelina is the one passing that on. And then she followed that up, I think maybe in a reply to that, Carolyn responded to that. It's just, the votes don't matter. You are one of the great characters on the show. And when they ask you back, I can't wait to see you again. Angelina is a huge Carolyn fan.
Oh, I'm wiping a single tear away right now. Oh, this warms my heart. So good to hear. God, I need them both on the same season. Like, oh, what a dynamic duo that would be.
There may come a time when Angelina is wrong on social media, but I have yet to see it. That woman is always on point, and she is here again. Speaking of wipe away tears, that another moment that, again, brought me close to, but, there's things I probably need to talk to a therapist about. When Carolyn talks about being the weird, little girl that was sent out of the classroom for talking, again, that's the dignity and respect that the show cared for this character, while never letting go of the fact that she is hilarious, right? They didn't just turn her into some inspirational figure and just, crank up the volume when she's talking about genuinely, truly inspirational moments in the history of the show. They let her be all the things. And that's what made it great, is that she was hilarious. I have no guilt at all for laughing at her squawking performances and challenges. I have no guilt at all for laughing at, the crazy faces she makes when she, wants somebody to burp into her mouth. Because that's her. I don't think she's ashamed of that. And that's why, because they're telling the full rounded story that, yeah, man, imagine being that kid that was always being told that you're weird and you're disruptive. And then growing into somebody after some challenges in your life to be like, yeah, okay, that's who I am. And I like who I am. That's why I love the character and I love this season. reminded me of what Survivor can be, and in some ways hasn't been in a while, because it's largely evolved into like a game, right? And it's always been a game. But this season with Carolyn, with Yam Yam, with some of the others, Lauren, I think this episode for sure, it's reminded us that like one of the pleasures of the show is also just getting to know people, be people. And that scene, I guess, really made me think about it. Do you have any other moments?
Well, and I was going to say that's a good jumping off point for what I wanted to talk about, which is that they didn't turn Carolyn into a caricature, right? They didn't make her one-dimensional in any way, like, which they have, of course, done in previous seasons with
it's
other
an
people.
Effective tool at times.
Sure. I mean, like, the douchebag episode is an all-time classic because they totally made that guy one-dimensional. Not that he necessarily has other dimensions, but like, that was a great episode for it. In this case, though, they let Carolyn be Carolyn. And I think, I'm contrasting it with last season, right? Where we had just a whole lot of these like, heavily produced video packages, montages of like these players with their like sad stories and inspirational, like
2 players were playing in the memory of their dead sister. They doubled up. They had redundancies built in.
And I think like in contrast, right? Yes, we did get some of Carolyn's story, but more importantly, like we got to know Carolyn the person, right? So then when the story finally comes out and she's talking, at Final Tribal about being that weird kid or talking about her addiction and recovery and all that stuff, it's like you care more because you're invested in Carolyn. It's not just she's some cipher that has like this sad backstory. It's like, oh, no. Carolyn, the person that I like, is now talking about her life. I am interested in and invested now. Like, oh, tell me what that was like for you, Carolyn. I want to know your thoughts. And just, again, I'm contrasting this with last season, which not to keep shitting on it, but like, I think they cast people for their stories last season and not for the television that they could produce, right? Whereas Carolyn gave you great television and then you can include some of her story, which is what they did here. And it's so much more effective.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I was like this emotionally invested in character in Survivor. I'm sure it certainly happened. Like I could, like Sari would be a character that I could say that, but Panama was a long fucking time ago. It's happened, but like as I've evolved as a viewer, as obviously a big part of the way I interact with the show is, hey, I want to form takes and jokes and stuff for the thing I'm doing right now. And I should also say, like, the appeal of the show, like the top appeal of the show was always the game for me. That was kind of the first thing that really interested me in it. But yeah, no, again, that's why I didn't even like analyze her game that much, other than to say there's something there, folks. There's something there. It was an emotional investment. And I really appreciate that. And the show did that.
And I also like that they let her spell out pretty explicitly, like, hey, I'm an emotional player. You guys will have a bias against an emotional player. She didn't nail the argument. Like, she definitely could have presented it a little better, but I get it. You're speaking off the cuff. You're exhausted. You've been out there for nearly a month at this point, but she at least laid the groundwork for the case that, like, you don't just judge her and dismiss her for being emotional. Like, that was a part of who she is. And then she, I think, did a very good job of justifying why she's like that. That's when the recovery story came back out, right? She's talking about how, like, she didn't know how to deal with all this stuff. And so now she's gotten used to, like, no, don't bottle up your emotions, just be you. And she wants to live that way. And it's like, yeah, this makes total sense. If I'm on the jury, I'm like, oh, that's why you're like that. Okay, great. This makes sense to me. Right. And so it was so much better to see her lay out that case, because I think even if she didn't win this season, she didn't even get votes this season. I think it set something up, right? Where it's at least going to make people think twice about, like, why they're dismissing players in future seasons, and maybe even viewers dismissing players in future seasons for being too emotional.
Yeah. And, like, let's be honest, we have dismissed a lot of players from that very reason, you know?
Sure.
Maybe that's why I responded, because it's kind of been a learning for me as well. And I want to say, to the jury's credit, I don't believe they did dismiss her. I think they just made a different choice, a perfectly acceptable choice. The right choice. I don't know. I don't know what that means. But I have no trouble believing that they believe that Yam Yam was the better player of the three. I think that's a completely fair assessment. But I don't think they were like, I'd never vote for Carolyn. They just, especially in this scenario, most of their moves were together and they felt like he did a better job executing them or whatever their decision was. Do you think she could have won if she would have voted him out at Final Five like she had kind of been talking about? Whether, I don't know how seriously that was or if that was an act.
Right. I mean, I guess, so in that scenario, would she be up against Heidi and Lauren?
Probably. Let's assume Heidi wins fire against Carson in this scenario. There isn't much reason to assume otherwise.
Right. So before the finale, I probably would have said she was a lock there, right? Now having seen Final Tribal, I'm not completely sold. Yeah. I think it's possible that the jury really respected her and just respected Yam Yam's game more, like you just said. I think it's also possible that there was still a level of dismissiveness that she had to overcome, right? Whereas I think Heidi and to a lesser extent Lauren probably didn't have to overcome that as much, right? Because they could point to certain things that they did along the way. And I mean, Carolyn kind of could too, but it's different when they all already come in with that bias, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think Hannah back in Millennials versus Gen X, people had formed an opinion about her right away. And so then getting them to change that opinion of her as like this anxious mess of a person, that takes too much time and effort. And you don't have that in 30 days, right? Like people are less likely to move away from their initial perceptions of you. And I think that, Carolyn, I wouldn't blame people at all if their initial assessment of Carolyn is like, wow, that lady's weird and she's probably not a good player. Because consistently throughout various seasons, when they've cast the weirdo, quote unquote, that player is not very good, genuinely. So I get that bias coming through, but I think that would have been a huge negative for her in any final tribal council. And so would she beat Heidi and Lauren? I hope so, but I'm not as sold as I thought I would be. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure she beats Lauren. I just kind of where the jury ended up landing. And obviously, like, what you have to consider for this is the entire presentation of what Lauren did as a player would have been different had she been the winner. Again, maybe not like super different, because I think the show still would have made sure to heavily feature Yam Yam and Carolyn.
As they should.
But she would have felt more like a contender to win. And I think she might have.
I think I said in our comments that, had Lauren been in any of the 3 previous seasons, she's probably one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player in any of those other 3 seasons.
Yeah. And I think what Carolyn needed to have a shot at winning is enthusiastic supporters in the jury. And so like Yam Yam being in the jury, I think actually could have been the big difference. But yeah, I don't think it can be as a result of Carolyn like backstabbing him that close to the end. Yeah, it's one of it's the Rich needs Rudy on the jury, but he can't put him there type thing. I think if she votes Yam Yam out there like 2 days before the vote, I don't know if Yam Yam is like celebrating Carolyn at Ponderosa, right?
Right. I mean, we've seen it's canon. He talked about like, oh, you wrote my name down. I'm coming for you. So, had she turned on him, it would have been an uphill climb to get his vote back.
Whereas if Lauren plays finds that package and it's an idol, we don't know that it was an idol. I think there was a spoiler going around that an idol was found, but I legit don't understand how anybody knows what that thing was, right?
Right.
But like that's why I was convinced actually she had found it, is because I had heard that there was a that there was an idol at Final Five, I'm like, well, the only way anyone knows that there's an idol is if that thing's found, right? Apparently not. If she had found that idol, played it, and Yam Yam hadn't cast that safety vote for Heidi, so he's taken out at 5, but Carolyn isn't voting for him, then I think Carolyn has a chance. Because, she can now claim all of the Tika moves that were the controlling elements of the game. She'll have both Carson and Carolyn, supporting her full-throatedly, whereas instead Carson
and Yam Yam, to be clear, not Carson and Carolyn.
Thank you. Carson and Yam Yam. Instead of Carson, while, of course, trying to direct her from the jury box, he's still, he likes them both, right? And obviously votes for Yam Yam in the end. I think in that scenario, if Yam Yam and Carson are both in the jury at the last moment, but Carolyn isn't responsible for that, then I think she has a chance. For one, she's got 2 votes for sure, right?
Yes.
And now I think, they'd be talking and, Yam Yam and Carson would both be able to, spend the night or two dispelling kind of any ideas that, it was just fluke. It's no, we were playing you all along and Carolyn was right there with us. Then I think she has a chance, but I don't think voting Yam Yam out gets her that. So what are you going to do? So was there something different she could do? No, not really. Find that idol and give it to Lauren and not, but then that would get out, right? So yeah, I think, what are you going to do? Yam Yam played a better game in the eyes of the jury. Does it matter to you that she didn't get any votes?
Only in that what you just told me is that this makes it better, right? Because now she is in league with Angelina and they are they're on board with each other. They're fans, mutual fandom. This makes me feel so much better. Had she gotten 1 vote, would Angelina be like, oh no, I'm out? The Carolyn, I was only on board if she was in the same position as me. So, it does make me feel better because I was reminded of Angelina, another all-time great, who also got 0 votes. So it's oh yeah, no, okay, I'm good with this now.
Yeah, in by and large, it doesn't really matter to me how many votes second or third place get. I think fans get a little weird about this in the way that I wonder if they forget how voting systems work. This is not ranked choice. Nor could it ever be, by the way. I don't know how you could do that for television. All right, I'm going to go to the big board and we're going to read out these votes and then we're going to tabulate. Also, I don't know if there's a vote in the history of Survivor that would have changed based on rank vote. Obviously, you could only do, for 3 finals. Otherwise, it's pretty simple. Every vote they cast for 1, the other person's 2. But even Ghost Island, I don't know that Laurel gets a single 3rd place or 2nd place vote, so I don't think it changes anything. But otherwise, it would have to be a close one. People aren't voting for 2nd place, so it's it would, so when they get, upset, this person deserved to lose by less. You see this in sports voting too, where people get mad that the MVP isn't closer, but they're well, yeah, sure, that guy's the MVP, but it shouldn't be that much of an MVP. It's every voter.
This guy should have gotten more votes.
Yeah. And at least that one, it is ranked choice, but yeah, it's every voter is deciding who they think is the best. If they think that person's the best, that's who they should vote for. It shouldn't be but I also really like them. It would be mean if they didn't get a vote. So in that respect, I don't care. Not getting 3 votes and losing doesn't make you better than somebody who got no votes. It probably just means that the person who won was weaker, right? All that said, man, I really would have liked it if Carolyn got a vote. And it's just more than
me too.
This is a tiny slice of validation that somebody got it. And again, not even as a sympathy thing, but they got it. That her game was worthy of winning Survivor. It's fine that nobody felt that way, It's I'll say as a funny note. So they talk about this at the after show, and we see it first as the preview for stay tuned for this, and it's what's her name? Franny being I want you to know that you inspired me and all that. And my wife is well, you didn't vote for her. Really bitter.
Didn't inspire you to vote for her.
Which, I fully supported. the bitter and pettiness. And then, of course, we come back from commercial break and we get the scene again and the exact same reaction from my wife out loud. Well, then why didn't you vote for her? It would have been, I would have really liked to see a vote for Carolyn. Not a pity vote. I actually dislike when people just cast that extra vote so that somebody gets a vote. I only want jurors voting for who they think should win. I just wish somebody thought that was Carolyn.
Right. I mean, like you said, my thoughts exactly. I just wanted some validation from a jury member that they thought Carolyn played the best game. I can see why they wouldn't, because we already laid it out, like why I think Yam Yam's game to a jury member would be more appealing. But at the same time, as a viewer, as an interested viewer with a rooting interest, I wanted that for Carolyn.
I wanted it for me.
That too.
All right, we should talk about the other person that was in the final.
Oh, fine. Let's stop talking about the best character on the show.
All right, it's time for our fun biannual discussion about the fire making. So this time we get Heidi deciding, as the winner of the immunity challenge, to put herself into fire. Does this say anything about the structure of the game? Is kind of the question. Maybe I'll answer my own, and then you can kind of feed off that. But it's just like it's been a thing that people have been talking about since forced fire making became a feature of the game. Well, maybe not since then. Probably since Chris Underwood won, and then maybe it became more of a thing when certain other people didn't make the same decision as he did and lost. And they're like, well, you shouldn't have to go to fire. Just when you win, the winning is the thing. They won the immunity challenge. They shouldn't have to go to fire. Maybe they were talking about this last season with Cassidy. And I think Heidi's decision and everything that followed shows you don't have to. You don't have to, you know? It's a false dichotomy that people are using to voice their objection to the fire making. An objection that I have no problem with. I even semi-share, but for different reasons. But it's never been that the winner of the final four challenge then also has to go to fire to impress the jury. Because that just happened, and it did not impress the jury, other than the firefighter, right?
Right.
What it's been, and I think what people get this wrong, is if the person that needs to be removed out of the game, the presumptive favorite, of which every indication says Carson was, if they're there, you got to get them taken out. You don't have to do it yourself, but if they're not taken out at 4, then you'll lose. Because that's what people are saying. This is the person we're going to vote for, and you didn't remove them from the game. Now, does it have to be you, the person removing you? No, man. Again, we just saw Heidi do it in spectacular fashion, in the greatest time of all time, which again happened last year. It didn't really move the jury because it still wasn't enough for Heidi. I think she made the right choice in doing it, A, because she knew she was that strong, B, because she knew Carson was the biggest threat, and C, I think she rightly recognized she had not yet done enough to make the jury want to vote for her. And she was right, because even doing that wasn't enough.
Exactly.
I think there's a lot of arguments why fire making should go, but this isn't one of them. We've seen now almost every permutation possible. That, win the fire making, win Survivor. Lose the fire making, not win Survivor. Or win Survivor. Get brought to the end, win Survivor. Not get brought to the end, lose Survivor. Like, all of it's happened. So there isn't like, oh man, this sucks because now you have to win fire to win Survivor. You don't. I don't know how many people have. So I don't know. I've said a lot. You have any thoughts from there?
I mean, I think you're right. She just accurately surveyed the landscape and was like, oh man, I don't think I have what it takes currently to get enough votes from that jury. And so I have to take this shot. And yeah, I mean, in that instance, you're there to win, right? And if you've gotten that deep into the game, roll the dice. I mean, I think I've said this in previous seasons. Once you're getting to a point where you can no longer stand a chance to win, even if you get to the final tribal council, then what are you there for? Right? So I totally support her taking the shot, especially because clearly she has some incredible fire making skills. And I think she knew that too. So like she was betting on herself, which was the right move. And
whereas if you're somebody who's not any good at fire, you don't have to go into fire making to win Survivor. Plenty of people have not gone into fire making one.
Yeah. You can say like, hey, I won the final challenge. I earned this. I deserve it. You can package it however you want to a jury. I think in her case, you know, again, it allowed her to use one of her stronger skills and to take out a potential competitor that, you know, people liked and who could have potentially won. Although, you know, as we discussed last week, he's 20. So was he going to win? I mean,
I don't know,
but
he was the presumptive favorite. So
he was, he did have a lot of people saying that, you know, everyone likes him. He could win, blah, blah, blah.
I think Yam Yam would have beaten him, but you know, in that moment, that was the feeling. And that's what people have misunderstood in their, you know, hate rage for fire making. It wasn't that the player didn't go to fire making. It's that they left the presumptive favorite in the game. Again, if you'd chosen the right person to take them out, then you might have had a chance. I'm beating around, you know, the example I'm using here because, you know, I don't want to give away winners to seasons that are, maybe recommended. For instance, by you.
Right. Yes.
But even last year,
I think
like it feels like that's why Gabler won, and I think maybe it was. I'm going to spoil this season because I'm not recommending people watch it. But that's because there was nothing. It's like all three of them had nothing. So maybe that actually would have worked for the boring girl who people think should have won, but did nothing. Cassidy.
There you go.
Maybe winning fire would have helped her there, but it was just simply because the jury was grasping at straws. But the other thing that needed to happen, though, was Jesse needed to be removed from the game. So again, I don't know if Cassidy's able to do that. So her choice was fine. It wasn't why she lost the game. And we know that, again, because Heidi made all that choice. You could not be more impressive at fire making than she was, and it wasn't enough in this scenario.
And I think, you know, her assessment of her own game probably had some element of my own assessment of her game, which is that, like, she, much like the rest of them, realized way too late what was happening with Tika.
Yeah.
So by the time she came through at the end and started, you know, doing things and making moves, it was too late, right? I don't think that she was a bad player for that. Obviously that Tika group fooled every other player. It's not anything specific to Heidi. But yeah, I think she probably needed or realized like, oh shit, you know, the Tika crowd genuinely did pull the wool over all of our eyes. Like they played a great game. And so she has to do something to try to stand out. It was still too little too late, but I don't fault her at all for taking the shot.
Yeah, and I think throughout the season, we were both pointing out, like, actually, Heidi's doing pretty well.
She is.
We had to point that out because she never felt like somebody who was winning, and, you know, we know why. But yeah, I think she played a solid game throughout. I think once Tika took over, she got a little conservative with her gameplay. But part of that, as we talked about, I believe, last week, was because the move to make against them would involve Lauren and Jamie, and she just could not trust them anymore.
Exactly.
They kept voting for her. Understandable. But I also think that like the solid game she played might have played better on a different season, but this season got shaped in a different way. So that, yeah, many other seasons, like Yam Yam and Carolyn are just there for the entertainment. But they played well enough and Tika did enough things that jury was like, no, man, that's good. So what did you do? And you kind of saw that like Heidi struggling with that a bit in her answers. Because it's like, but no, like I did the things that you're supposed to do. And the jury's like, yeah, that's the old stuff. Let's talk about the new stuff. And she didn't really have enough. She wasn't making the emotional connections the way that Yam Yam was. Her game was a little bit more by the book. And I'm really excited that book wasn't enough because it's never been one I've enjoyed reading, like most books.
So let's instead move on to talking about the Wonder Kid, Carson. You'll never guess what show I've just been watching. What did you think about Carson's final episode performance?
I liked, by the end of the season I enjoyed Carson. There was points in the season where it was just like, no, not that kid. No, I liked him. I'm not impressed by his puzzle making. Like, as soon as they showed it was a puzzle, it's like, all right, it's nice that you built this whole set with all of these different, like, elements. We all know it's coming down to the puzzle and Carson's winning it. And lo and behold. But yeah, he ended up being more. He wasn't just the, game bot. Here's what, the gameplay that has been workshopped by me and all the other fans on, Reddit and RHAP. No, he led with his heart as much as his head. And I think that was really appealing. And would he do that any other season? Maybe not. That's the magic of Yam Yam and Carolyn, though. So I don't know. What do you think about Carson?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had expectations of him that he did defy, and to his credit, he grew on me. I think I'd mentioned earlier this season, partly because of the halo effect of being, with Carolyn and Yam Yam. Like, sure, that's going to make you look better. Like, you've got their endorsement. Great. I'm much more willing to be on board. But I think the one thing that stood out to me in this episode, was just, man, that guy talked too much at Final Tribal. Like, stop trying to make this the Carson show. Like, this is the Carolyn and Yam Yam show. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's cool that you're trying to set them up, but man, you're talking too much. Like, let the stars shine, buddy. But overall, I think he played about as good of a game as a 20-year-old can play. I think, I really enjoyed, as we mentioned earlier, that scene with him and Yam Yam, where Yam Yam is just helping him with the fire making. I'm like, that was sweet, right? Like, yes. That's a good connection. And the fact that he got these other older adults to take him seriously is like credit to him, because there aren't too many 20-year-olds that I would take seriously. So I think he played, again, about as good of a game as you could as a 20-year-old.
Yeah, and full credit to him in that scene for recognizing what a special thing was happening with Yam Yam, It would have been nice if you would have mentioned it at the final, at the tribal council.
Turns out he didn't need to.
Yeah, and finally he didn't need that. But yeah, just like the tribal he went home, where he was talking about, like, I didn't give up and all of that. It was like, hey, you could maybe drop a line about what Yam Yam did. But again, he just got voted out. It's fine. He ended up being more than I expected, and I enjoyed it. And also, thank God he did not win the season. It would have been terrible.
Yes. And for one thing that you just kind of touched on just now, which is that, like, they recycle a lot, and we've addressed this earlier in the seasons, but they're recycling a lot of puzzles for these challenges. And so when you get these people like Carson who just relentlessly practice them so that should they ever get to them, they can solve them very quickly, like, you're taking some of the fun out of it. And on that note, the final challenge for this season was the Simmotion game, which we've seen many times. Are you tired of that one? Is it time to move on from that?
Oh God, yes. Like, I get why they do it for a few reasons. One, the staged nature of it allows for different, rising and falling actions for dramatic purposes. They can, edit it in that way. I think they really like how balanced it is, right? There's no one contestant who has a better, like, innate advantage to it. And I think that's why I don't like it. Like, man, can we just let sometimes people be better at things than other people and gain success as a result? Like, it just feels too random. I don't know to be impressed by the winner of it. Like at a certain point in the game, is there really any, like, you're better at it? I know, like, there was one season where they let somebody practice at it. I can't remember if they won it or not. I think maybe they did. But it's like your hand slips. That's all it is, So it's just like, okay, you won. cool. Like, you could certainly do worse things at it. Carolyn found a way where she just kept dropping the balls right one after another. That's bad technique, right? But otherwise, it's just kind of like, we watch until, oh, there you go, somebody won, you know? Like, any evidence you needed that this is not really an exciting test of, like, ability. It's like Romeo winning it, right? It's just like, oh, if we just want a random number generator winner, then let's just do that. And that's what this more and more feels like to me. And one thought I had is like, well, then the fire making is the more impressive challenge at the former, you know? That shows some ability and skill. It certainly seems to...
Exactly.
Now, one thought I had, you know, two thoughts on fire making. Obviously, I shared a bunch quickly. Is like, it's time to stop complaining about it if you're trying to be constructive, because it's not going anywhere. And I think the show rightly probably should have loved what they got in this one. Not so much how quickly Heidi did it, because again, like, Gabler literally just set the record like 30 days prior to this. It's more that all those people were good at it. And it's actually kind of a positive that it's been introduced enough into the game that people now recognize that, like, hey, this basic skill of, like, the life of this game, I can't just outsource it to other people. I need to be good at it. And that's what was nice about the Yam Yam and Carolyn scene. They were just like, boop, 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 fire. Mine's better. No, mine's better. Heidi, boop, 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 had it. Carson, again, like, he was demonstrably worse than everybody, but he was probably better than many other people we've ever seen in this challenge, right? So I think It's like, I think the show enjoys the fact that people now, like, realize, oh, I guess I have to kind of be good at this basic survival skill. The only way it's going away is if people continue to be as good at it as Heidi was, as Gabler was, that it just no longer functions as a dramatic element of TV. If it's always over in like 3 minutes, then I could see them being like, oh, well, I guess we got to find something else. So that's what you need to hope for, is that people just keep killing it to the point where it's like many other Survivor past elements, a solved puzzle.
I'm realizing now, by the way, that we didn't really go into too many Lauren thoughts. Do you have any Lauren thoughts you wanted to get out into the world?
I liked her exiting moments. I thought when she talked about, what it's like being a mom and, how the game has grown. I thought that was really nice. And just kind of like an underlining moment of like, many seasons Lauren would have been one of great characters. If they'd given her more time on this season, she would have delivered. But I'm also fine that this season wasn't for Lauren, because it's like, man, not everybody gets the ball as much. You should put the ball in the hands of the stars more often, and the role players just need to be ready when their number is called.
And that's exactly what she was. She was a great role player in this season, and I enjoyed her in that aspect.
And could she put up 20 on an expansion team? Yeah, probably, but I don't know that they're making the playoffs.
I mean, look, she could have a Caleb Martin performance. She could be that Gabe Vincent on certain nights.
One thing that her discussion made me think, and like the jury reaction, this was a very mom season, and not in the way that the kids would say it's very mother, because I actually don't really fully understand when something is mother and something's not. And I'm happy with that. I should not know. I am disgustingly old. But just there were a lot of moms. And actually was pretty cool in that it wasn't the defining feature of these women in the ways that it so often is. In that the women get boxed into the corner of like the tribe mom, and they need to be there to be the emotional support person for all of these people, but they're not allowed to be players because there were so many at, the key stages of the game. They got to just be people instead of moms, but they also got to be moms, and that wasn't like a pejorative. It wasn't a negative. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed all those moms that we mentioned. Jamie less so. Is Jamie a mom? Yes, she is.
I think so.
I think.
In general, you do love moms.
I'm not going to say anything here.
Damn it! That was my trap!
Oh, so close. I was like, it was right there. I was like, I'm going to say something and I will get myself in trouble. Nope.
Look, and we all enjoy moms, and you know which one I enjoy the most? Yours. Anyway, no.
Oh, I saw
literally like 30 seconds ago, I just like said, oh, everything's so great and all this. And now I'm making reductive your mama jokes.
See?
I contain multitudes.
You contain multitudes. Damn it. Beat me to it. All right, so let's wrap this thing up. What'd you think of the season overall?
Fuck, I loved it.
It's so good, right?
Yeah, we'll do the rankings. We'll update the rankings over the long off season. So I haven't thought to what degree, but like genuine shot at top 10. Yeah,
I mean, I think this one is helped a lot by coming after such a dog shit last season. Yep. And I haven't looked at my list or anything like that, but my gut reaction without doing so is definitely top third. Yeah. Right? Because we're basically 45 seasons in at this point. So definitely top 15. Where in that range could it be top? It could be top 10. I'd have to look at my list to know for sure. But
I haven't done that either.
This is a legit great season, like genuinely enjoyable.
And I just hope there was some dissatisfaction with this season at the midpoint. Justifiable, right? Just the earn the merge portion and then the splitting them off. I understood the frustration. I had some of it too. But following that, I said, you got to let it go. Look, like now we're just at a merge. It's at a 10. Let's let the season go where it was. And I hope that people did that, because if they did, they recognize that, man, there's always blips and stuff. And it's like a mistake to try and judge a season as it was a 10 here and a 9 here and math it out. There's going to be some lows along with the highs, and the highs were just so great. And it was for weeks. I just genuinely, truly enjoyed watching the show, being kind of with the people in the show and talking about the show. So yeah, no, man, this is great. It frankly renewed my faith in Survivor, and also assuaged any fears that they've fundamentally broken something with all of the new stuff. They haven't. For one, the main thing that's been great about the new stuff is the diversity of characters, and that's going to continue. And that was a huge portion of what this show and this season was. And it just gets down to Survivor can really be great and special when they get the right mix going. And I fully understand and sympathize. It's that's not an easy thing to do.
It's not.
They did it this season.
And I think there's also that hurdle you have to overcome of you're meeting someone and talking to someone, or you're interviewing them as, potentially a contestant on this show. They are not the same person they will necessarily be out on an island with TV cameras in front of them, starving and, with head injuries from a challenge or things like that. It's not, you might actually have someone that you think, man, this person is going to pop on TV, and then you get out there and they're a dud. Yep. I can see why that would happen, right? It makes rational sense why it would.
Or they get voted out early.
Yeah. Or when it comes together like this, though, it's so good, right? When you see the correct decisions have been made, you guys nailed it with this cast. Well done.
So I love it. It almost makes me ready to watch 90 minutes of Survivor every week. That's not
true. Shit. So yeah, let's talk about that, because we did get a preview of next season, 45, which is going to get 90-minute episodes. Let's do a quick thing, because you have a theory on why this is happening, I think.
It's almost certainly a writer's strike thing.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody likes to think that it's, this is what they've wanted for years, right? We're finally doing it. Now they're doing 90 minutes of this, followed by 90 minutes of Amazing Race, which also feels weird to me that Amazing Race is now starting at 9:30. This used to be a family show, right? It's gonna
be Amazing Race after dark.
Yeah. Have you seen the dog shit schedules that these networks are having to put out to, protect themselves with the fact that they're going to have no written content?
No, I do know, though, I haven't seen the schedules, but I do know that you and I are always firmly on the side of the capital class, and fuck the working man is what we say. And on that note, we have commissioned a special theme song that we will be playing at the end of this episode, written by our very own AI robot.
That's right. Fuck the writers.
That's right. You and I have always said that writing is an overrated skill. we would pay as little for it as possible. And we do, to be clear.
The only way we can pay less is if we made them pay us.
Exactly. Which, you think they'd go for that? We could try. One quick thought on 45 before we move on. So we did get to see the cast. I don't know that anybody necessarily jumped out at me. But Bruce is on again. And, I just really want Bruce to get medevac right away again. Like, I want Bruce's survivor journey to just be Final Destination. Like, I'm not wishing ill on him. I don't want it to be like some permanent, legit, scary illness, injury, whatever. I just want him pulled again before the first vote because it would be so funny. Like, come on. That's not too much to ask.
A new category. Different than Francesca. We spend all this time, like, all these very humanist thoughts about the season, and then we're like, yeah, let's hope that guy gets hurt again.
I don't want it to be like a bad injury.
Yeah, honestly, we don't even need a concussion anymore. A second concussion would be bad. Just like heat stroke or something, just all you need is a few IV fluids and you'll be right back at it.
Or he injures his ankle or something, right?
Yeah.
And then he's fine in like 3 weeks. But like, you can't walk around on that thing for 3 weeks on Survivor. So you got to get pulled.
It's funny when the promo ended with him being I'm back. My wife was like, who the hell is that? Like, that dude was on this season. And that's not even a joke, like, oh, wow, my silly wife. It's just a strong reminder of, like, how most people watch this show,
Exactly. All right. Anything else for this season?
No, I think we covered it. Where can people talk about this stuff with us?
You can, of course, find all of our content on purplerockpodcast.com. And should you wish to follow Andy on Twitter, he's at Purple Rock Andy. The show is at Purple Rock Pod. Don't even fucking look for me there. As Andy mentioned, Twitter's not my bag anymore. And as noted earlier, please enjoy some theme music that we have commissioned specifically for this episode.